Gary Thompson and Emily Smith got together quickly, mainly because he broke his vows so fast. Oh, no, he broke his vow of chastity after becoming secular. Since he had already become secular, it couldn't be called breaking a vow. A more appropriate description would be like a match made in heaven. As the saying goes, there's no place like home, and everything happens for a reason. Since accepting his willing becoming secular, Gary Thompson had been living every day freely and spontaneously. Occasionally, he missed those years as a monk, but it felt like yesterday's events, a thing of the past. Just like before, when he was a monk, he would use the time it took to doze off during his nightly meditating and chanting to review his once flirtatious youthful years. Everything was just an experience. And he and Emily were like an inescapable karmic relationship in this world. Since it was difficult to escape and difficult to end, they simply followed their hearts and made it official. Gary Thompson still felt a bit disgusted with himself for breaking his vow of chastity as soon as he became secular, the same kind of disgust he felt towards David Jones. But who told that enchantress to be so powerful? He recited the Serenity Prayer repeatedly but couldn't hold on to himself, facepalm. Amen. Emily Smith didn't think she was an enchantress, she was just a divorced woman. Where would she get such great charm as an enchantress? It's just that as a divorced woman, she finally managed to snag a man she liked, and she didn't care what his previous identity was, she just wanted to eat him as soon as possible. Okay, the night Emily ate Gary Thompson, she really felt like she had transformed into an enchantress, eating Gary Thompson completely clean. As a result, she was counterattacked in the second half of the night. Unable to believe Gary Thompson's stamina, she raised her eyebrows and asked, "Gary Thompson, did you really eat plant-based meals these past few years as a monk?" Gary Thompson really felt ashamed of Buddha. The only reason he could explain it was, he was suffocating. Some people are destined to be impure in the six senses. Even if they have been monks for so long, once they break their vows, they can't control themselves. However, after all, he was a monk who had become secular, so Gary Thompson gradually restrained himself and adapted to life after becoming secular, including his diet. One meal was completely plant-based meals, and the second meal had a little meat. Fortunately, Emily Smith was very understanding. She even accompanied Gary Thompson, eating one plant-based meal and one semi-vegetarian meal, losing 5 or 6 pounds and making her figure even more graceful. Emily Smith's figure was already slightly curvy, but from a pure carnivore to a semi-carnivore, her figure improved, her skin became better, and occasionally when she looked at herself in the mirror, she felt that the person inside was really plump and tender. Barely, she could be considered a female enchantress. "Gary Thompson, am I your female enchantress?" One time, when the two were sitting on the sofa watching a reality TV show, Emily Smith fed Gary Thompson a bite of cut melon and asked with a smile. "No." Gary Thompson ate the melon, leaned against the sofa, and replied leisurely, paused, "Emily, don't be so humble, you are definitely not an enchantress. You're a femme fatale." Emily Smith sat on Gary Thompson's lap, about to shake him around, but Gary Thompson held Emily Smith's shoulders, that helplessness, that ecstasy, his smile calm and cheerful. See, still a heavy-duty femme fatale. Emily Smith really wanted to bite into a piece of Gary Thompson's flesh. Emily Smith, having a boyfriend, was somehow known by her parents. After Mr. and Mrs. Smith found out, they didn't even call in advance, and directly traveled from Seaville to Riverbrook, waiting like a hunter guarding a tree for a rabbit, waiting at their dog. Hers Blue Horizon Estates residence. They didn't wait in vain. They didn't wait for their daughter, but they directly waited for a handsome and kind-looking man with fair skin and bright teeth, who even looked somewhat familiar, as if they had seen him somewhere. "Uncle and Auntie, hello, my name is Gary Thompson." Hello, are you Gary, that Emily is talking about?" Mrs. Smith excitedly reached out and tightly grabbed Gary Thompson's hand. Gary Thompson smiled slightly. "I think that should be me." Gary Thompson met his future in-laws in advance. That noon, at a diner near Blue Horizon Estates, he ordered a few exquisite plant-based meals to entertain Mr. and Mrs. Smith. The mother-in-law was more and more satisfied with her son-in-law. Mrs. Smith had never been so satisfied with Brian Wang before. On the other side, Emily Smith, after receiving the notification from Innovation Plaza, rushed over almost running. In the diner, Gary Thompson had already started chatting with Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Emily Smith came in and saw a harmonious scene. Not only her mother was smiling from ear to ear, but her father also showed a rare satisfied smile. Regarding how to make the elderly happy, probably no one is better than Gary Thompson, right? After all, his clients used to be mainly the elderly. Gary, what did you do before? Mrs. Smith asked intentionally. Even if she liked him again, she would inevitably ask some cliched questions. Mom, Emily Smith immediately became nervous, fearing that Gary Thompson would reveal his monkhood, and was about to speak to stop him. Gary Thompson had already answered himself. I do some research on Buddhist literature. His tone was natural, unhurried, and without any arrogance. Amazing. Mrs. Smith almost excitedly praised him by slapping the table, and Mr. Smith also looked at his daughter. This time she had good taste. Their daughter could actually find someone who does research. Emily Smith, she didn't expect that becoming secular to be a monk could be said to be so high-end. What about your parents? My father is a businessman, and my mother has passed away. Very good, no mother-in-law. What do you usually like to do? Gary Thompson suddenly stopped. Emily Smith's heart tightened, because even though Gary Thompson had become secular, he still did meditating and chanting for an hour every day, and his favorite thing to do was meditating and chanting. My interests are relatively boring. I basically stay at home, and sometimes I just meditate alone. Meditate? What is this? Mr. and Mrs. Smith didn't quite understand, but they felt that the other party was doing research and still on Buddhist studies, so meditation seemed even more profound. In short, Mr. and Mrs. Smith were more and more satisfied with Gary Thompson. This upright demeanor, this deep-set eyes and high nose, really made them feel especially kind, as if they had seen him somewhere. But they couldn't remember. That day, Mrs. Smith found a reason to take Gary Thompson's birth date, intending to go back and find a master to calculate it. After the Brian Wang incident, Mrs. Smith was even more cautious about her choice of master. In the middle, she consulted many people, and then someone recommended Reverend Luke from Skyline Peak. Reverend Luke is really good, his predictions are accurate, and his fees are reasonable. If he meets someone he is destined to be with, he can even give a discount. It's just that I heard he has already become secular, and it's a bit difficult to find him now. Mrs. Smith was so regretful that she called her daughter Emily Smith to talk about this. Emily Smith was silent for a while, and said to her mother, Mom, don't worry about it. I happen to know a master too. Give me the birth date, and I'll calculate it for you and give it to you. That night, a piece of paper with the two people's birth date written on it was placed in front of Gary Thompson. He repeatedly calculated with his fingers and wrote 2 words, auspicious. July midsummer, the sun is scorching hot. 1 week, David Jones took his wife on a business trip to the United States for a week, leaving Lily at her grandparents' house in Riverbrook. In the middle, Lily was bored and used her tablet to connect, accidentally connecting to Gary Thompson. In the afternoon, Gary Thompson was sitting cross-legged on the bamboo mat meditating after a meal. The phone rang, flashing Lily's avatar. He answered the phone, smiling and greeting Lily, who was lying on the tablet. Hi, Lily. Hello. Lily originally wanted to call her father, but unexpectedly called Uncle Thompson. Seeing Uncle Thompson's face, she smiled to herself, stubbornly refusing to say that she had dialed the wrong number. Later, hearing Uncle Thompson greet her, she grinned even more happily. Uncle Thompson, hello. Gary Thompson guessed that Lily probably dialed the wrong video call, which didn't affect his desire to say a few words to the lovely child. He held the phone in one hand, pulled his knees inward, supported the mat with his right hand, and chatted with Lily with a gentle smile. For example, had she eaten lunch? Also, what did she eat? And why didn't she take a good nap? Was she secretly giving him a video call? From an adult's point of view, chatting with a child is a very boring thing, but Gary Thompson chatted enthusiastically and patiently. Emily Smith, who was next to him, also found it fun to listen to. It turned out that Gary Thompson was not only good at making the elderly happy, but he was even better at coaxing children. Emily Smith joined the chat with Lily. Unknowingly, Lily had forgotten that she had secretly taken the tablet to make video calls to Donna and her father, and kept talking to Auntie Emily and Uncle Thompson. Finally, after hanging up the phone, Emily Smith asked Lily, "Do you miss Auntie Emily?" Lily has always been a sweet, talking child, so naturally she nodded, yes. A few days ago, Emily Smith and Gary Thompson discussed reclaiming a piece of land at a farm to grow some organic vegetables. Today, they received Lily's video call, and that day they went to the Joe residence to pick up Lily. The next day, they took Lily to a farm in the suburbs. David Jones and Donna were still in the United States, only knowing that Lily was taken out to play by Emily Smith and Gary Thompson, not knowing that Gary Thompson was taking Lily to work. As a result, before going to bed that night, David Jones and Donna swiped on Gary Thompson's social media account. In the photo, Lily was wearing a farmer's hat, holding a carrot in her hand, looking like she was seriously pulling carrots. The caption was, "Suffering is not suffering, joy is not joy, things change with the heart, the environment is created by the mind." At the same time, Emily Smith also posted on her social media account, with more casual text, only the 4 words, "Labor is glorious." Seeing their daughter appear in their respective friends' social media account in this way, Donna's idea was, when they go back, they can also take Lily to participate in such experiential activities. David Jones was, Gary Thompson actually dared to take his daughter to farm. Lily herself, pulling carrots, can't pull them out of facepalm. Emily Smith and Gary Thompson took Lily away for 2 days, until Donna and David Jones returned from the United States and picked up their daughter from them. When she went back, Lily reluctantly said goodbye to her Uncle Thompson. "Uncle Thompson, bye-bye." Gary Thompson was carrying a large bag in his hand, containing organic carrots and organic bok choy brought back from the farm, and then personally delivered them to David Jones. "David Jones, here you go." David Jones didn't really want it. Gary Thompson, "There's a carrot inside that Lily pulled out herself." David Jones reached out and took it. Donna next to him smiled gently. Lily raised her head triumphantly, and also said to David Jones, "I pulled out 2 carrots, one for Uncle Thompson and one for Daddy." Hearing his daughter say this, David Jones felt that the carrots and bok choy in his hand were precious. What dissatisfied David Jones was that, after only taking her for 2 days, Gary Thompson had led his Lily astray. For example, when she returned home in the evening, Lily suddenly put her little hands together while watching cartoons on the sofa. He asked what she was doing. Lily herself didn't know, and just said in answer she knew, making a wish. Needless to say, David Jones could guess with his toes who Lily learned to put her little hands together and sit cross-legged on the sofa to make a wish from. David Jones felt that Gary Thompson's becoming secular was not thorough. Since he had become secular, he still maintained a bunch of habits of monks, and even the industry he was engaged in after becoming secular was still related to Buddhism. Gary Thompson had a good reason, otherwise he would think that his monkhood was a joke, or that his becoming secular was a joke. Emily Smith was very accepting of this. The only hurdle was explaining Gary Thompson's previous identity to her parents. Although Mr. and Mrs. Smith were very satisfied with Gary Thompson when they met last time, but if they planned to get married, they should explain it anyway. But how to explain it? Their future son-in-law is a monk who has become secular. Seville is not a big place. As long as one of the 7 aunts and 8 aunts knows the truth, someone might say something and it might reach the Wang's ears. The Wangs are her previous husband's family, and they might say something nasty. In addition, Her parents are people who care about face, and they might beat them apart. In short, Emily Smith had a clear understanding, clear ideas, and a firm attitude. No matter what problems there were, she would solve them. If there were no problems, they would be affectionate. Let others discuss the gossip. So what if Gary Thompson had been a monk? Even if he had been a eunuch, he would be stronger than that man Brian Wang. Emily Smith was quick-tongued and blurted out these words on the bed. Gary Thompson smiled helplessly and humbly, recited 2 sentences of amen, paused, and added with amorous eyes, "Madam, you are too kind, your husband is very pleased." Emily Smith. The monk Gary seemed to have misunderstood her words. Some people have a stomach full of sewage. Even if they become monks, the sewage in their stomachs can sail a boat. Regardless, he really had to explain his previous identity to his future parents-in-law. He didn't want Emily Smith to follow him unclearly and do something that would humiliate his teachers. The teachers said that since he had already become secular, don't make a fuss. After the two discussed it, Emily Smith returned to Seville first. Faced with her daughter returning alone, without seeing her future son-in-law, Mr. and Mrs. Smith inevitably felt disappointed and asked their daughter the reason. Their daughter said nothing, just sighed. "Could it be that young Gary dumped you?" Mrs. Smith asked. Emily Smith shook her head, "Of course not." "Then why didn't you say that you were coming back this time to formally visit us?" As a result, young Gary didn't come back. If it wasn't because their daughter was dumped, then what was it? It couldn't be that their daughter dumped young Gary. Mr. Smith also became anxious. "Honey, tell us." Emily Smith took a breath. "That's right, I dumped him, thinking he was not good enough for me." "What? Nanny, what's going on?" Mr. and Mrs. Smith opened their mouths wide, indicating that they couldn't accept it. It was true that their daughter was good, but was she misjudging her own positioning? Young Gary was such an excellent and infinitely charming ma. And how could he not be good enough for their daughter? Could there be any hidden secrets? Yes. Emily Smith nodded. Mr. and Mrs. Smith's first reaction was that. After thinking about it, they asked tactfully, "Is it physical or psychological?" Mr. and Mrs. Smith lived in a small seaside town and were relatively open-minded. They quickly thought of another possibility, especially Mrs. Smith, who widened her eyes and said, "Could it be a gay man marrying for show?" A gay man. Emily Smith almost spat out a mouthful of hot tea. Okay, she told the truth, saying that she and Gary Thompson were college classmates. Later, Gary Thompson became a monk at Skyline Peak for a while due to his own reasons. The reason why he became secular was because she kept looking for him. So what? Mr. and Mrs. Smith finally understood and inexplicably breathed a sigh of relief at the same time. It was okay, he had just been a monk. It didn't seem too difficult to accept. Moreover, from their daughter's words, the reason why young Gary became secular was because their daughter kept looking for him. So the reason why young Gary became secular ultimately lied with their daughter. "Daughter, so why do you think young Gary is not good enough for you?" Mrs. Smith asked her daughter. In fact, she was already more and more satisfied with her son-in-law. What's wrong with a man who has been a monk? He is calm, benevolent, and has great wisdom. Emily Smith babbled a lot, and the reason was only that she was afraid that Gary Thompson had been a monk and would affect her family's reputation. Mr. and Mrs. Smith. What reputation does our family have to affect? Cough. No, what Mom means is, how does young Gary affect our family's reputation? Mrs. Smith was an experienced person and looked at the problem comprehensively. The most important thing is to truly like each other, nothing else matters. Emily Smith was immediately moved to tears. Mrs. Smith, Bassay. Duh, you tricked him into becoming secular, and then you don't want him. Buddha will punish you. Emily Smith. She looked at her father, but unexpectedly Mr. Smith, who was always cautious, agreed with her mother's words. Your mother is right. Our family has always been honest. How can we trick a monk? Yes. Sure enough, it is easy to invite a Buddha but difficult to send him away. In order to prevent the Buddha from punishing her, Emily Smith sent Gary Thompson good news that night. As a result, Gary Thompson actually replied to her, "Amen, may Buddha bless you." Buddha bless you my foot, who told her parents to be as obsessed with appearances as she was, and someone looked so lovable. Besides, her mother's favorite man since she was a child was that male celebrity who played the Tang monk. Gary Thompson's note in her contacts, Emily Smith used Lily's name, but with my added in front, connected together is my Thompson. The next day, Gary Thompson came to Seville from Riverbrook. As for the experience of having been a monk, don't underestimate Mr. and Mrs. Smith's ability to fabricate, because for close family members such as grandparents, Mr. and Mrs. Smith explained it this way. Young Gary had a special physique since he was a child, and was instructed by a master that he needed to practice in a temple for a few years after adulthood, and must consider lifelong marriage matters after the end of his practice. Finally, young Gary finished his practice and can get married. Their daughter, after some setbacks, found the right person. So, this is a good fate. After speaking, she also took out the paper slip with the 2 words auspicious written on it and said, "Look, this Reverend Luke said it was good." Cough cough, it seems that Emily Smith has not told her parents Gary Thompson's former Dharma name. What is it like to marry a monk who has become secular? Every day when you open your eyes, you feel like a Buddha is lying next to you. When you make a mistake, you can't wait to kneel down and worship to ask for forgiveness. Everything can be solved with a sentence of Amen, and if that doesn't work, add another sentence. What is it like to have a young mother-in-law? Calling each other sisters when shopping. What is it like to marry into the Baijia department store wealthy family? The merchandise and food are dazzling, however, she has to eat plant-based meals every day. This is Emily Smith and Gary Thompson's daily feeling summary after truly stepping into married life. This is not her first time entering marriage, but it is very rare for someone like her to have the honor of marrying a monk who has become secular, who almost became a master who attained Buddhahood. Because her friend Donna's fairy tale book has been published and listed, Emily Smith takes time to record her married life. Maybe one day she can write a book. Anyway, she has already taken the name. It is called 100 Love Letters to the Master. When it is published and listed, her family monk Gary can also write a preface for her, and she can ask Donna to draw a few sets of cute illustrations, easily becoming a female writer. Simply, too nice. Unexpectedly, she had only imagined for a few minutes when she was stopped by her family monk Gary, who squinted at her with benevolence and helplessness and said, "Emily, don't mess around." What Emily Smith can't stand the most is Gary Monk's eyes. Benevolence with affection, affection with indulgence, coupled with a gentle tone and a low and slow speech speed. Even if his head has grown hair now, there is still a sense of Buddha's light on his head. But, how did she mess around? There are so many people who publish books to show affection. It's not just her. Or is the title of her book not good enough, not stylish enough? Or it's called Compassion, Love You Moi, or A Pure World Only Loves You, The Boundless Sea of Suffering is Love. Of course, Emily Smith also feels that these names are a bit cheesy. Gary Thompson finally shook his head and covered his wife's head with his palm and said, "Emily, what I mean is that I am already very out of line, and if I publish another book, I may really be attacked by my former monk friends." Emily Smith. Oh. Unexpectedly, Gary Thompson still cares a little bit about his original identity, and some things are too careless for her. Husband, if one day you want to go back to being a monk, just go back, it doesn't matter, don't worry about me. Emily Smith suddenly said a few words like that, generous and calm, not like her style. Cough. Gary Thompson, who has always been good at insight into people's hearts, was a little confused by his wife's words for a while. After thinking about it for a long time, he felt that he was too clever for his own good. Subconsciously recite a Amen, but in his heart it is wonderful. Emily Smith said this, thought this way, she really loves him. In the 3rd year of Gary Thompson's monkhood, he really felt that he loved Buddha, and Buddha also loved him. That was a great love, and also a kind of exile, broad and restrained. Now he feels that the small love between people is more flavorful, but the love between people is restrained, narrow but also inclusive. Since he came out, how could he go back? What's more, in the drawer, there are already 2 red booklets of him and her. Speaking of it, Gary Thompson's parents-in-law passed the test very easily, even if they all knew about his practice experience. However, the most important thing in choosing a son-in-law is looking at his face and demeanor, facepalm. After all, the previous example of Brian Wang made them no longer entangled in the traditional concept of family background and both parents must be alive. However, unexpectedly, their monk son-in-law's family background was so amazing. It's just that there is one less parent, only a single parent. The relationship between the father-in-law and his son-in-law is not very good, but everyone don't pay too much attention. The most important thing in life is to be compatible and happy. People who pay too much attention, such as the Wangs, are also hee-hee. Therefore, with such a casual mentality and thoughts, Emily Smith and Gary Thompson quickly obtained a marriage certificate and got married. Their man is a master, and they don't even need to find outsiders to look at auspicious days, they can all handle it themselves. In places like Seaville, people often like to look at the man's job when marrying a daughter. After all, the man's job attributes can bring certain convenience, such as a doctor, such as a teacher in a key high school, such as a civil servant in a good unit. However, in reality, Emily Smith found that Gary Thompson's former master identity was really useful. For example, helping relatives and friends choose a good day to move, and then looking at the feng shui of a house, and occasionally taking a pulse to check their physical condition. In short, her family members all like Monk Gary, especially her little nephew actually wrote in the essay about what he would do when he grows up. When he grows up he wants to be a high monk, who can calculate days, look at feng shui, and also know how to feel the pulse. The teacher's comment below is, Amitba. See, how strong is the influence of her family monk on her family. In fact, Emily Smith doesn't know, her influence on the Gary Thompsons is also very great, because after she married Gary Thompson, the relationship between the Gary Thompson father and son has improved somewhat. The first improvement was when Gary Thompson needed to find a backer for his David Jones. The second improvement was when Emily Smith established a good relationship with her future mother-in-law. Her future mother-in-law is 46 years old and is her father-in-law's girlfriend of several years. Due to the previous evil of the Gary Thompsons, her future mother-in-law has not married her father-in-law. Of course, this is also Emily Smith's guess. Although her future mother-in-law is 46 years old, she is very well maintained and looks like she is in her early 30s. Anyway, when they go out together, you can't tell that they are mother-in-law and daughter-in-law, so they become sisters who get along happily. But in Emily Smith's heart, her best sisters and friends will always be Donna. Donna, can you not keep chanting like this? So one day, Donna cooperated with the publishing house to hold a book signing, and Emily Smith, who was both a partner, agent, good friend and roommate, became the all-around assistant who helped turn the pages that day. She turned the pages, Donna signed, and the two cooperated seamlessly. The scene was very noisy and the atmosphere was very hot. The audience was all elementary school students. Next to them, the host controlling the scene was holding a microphone and arranging the order of the scene. The older brothers and sisters stand to the left, the younger children stand to the right. The older brothers and sisters take care of the younger brothers and sisters. Parents, please take care of your children. Everyone come one by one, don't rush. Donna. Emily Smith. Unexpectedly, Donna's fairy tale book is so popular among elementary school students. Backstage at the signing event, David Jones and Gary Thompson were blowing on the air conditioner and sipping green tea, discussing whether it was more tiring to keep signing, or more tiring to keep turning pages, meaning which of their women was more tired. They were full of love and pity in their words. However, if Donna and Emily Smith knew the topics that David Jones and Gary Thompson were discussing inside, they might each say in their hearts, MMP. At Mom's book signing event, Lily naturally came too, leaning on her father's lap, listening to her father Thompson's conversation, grinning and smiling. She thought Donna was more tired, because writing is really hard, really hard. Well, yes, signing is really hard, really hard. Trinity Thompson learned that Sam Wilson actually had a friend he knew online, commonly known as an internet friend, and her inner feelings were just beep 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 beep. She couldn't even get a word out. Her Sam Wilson is amazing. He actually has an internet friend. She thought only someone like her, whose online ID used to be Genius Trinity, would make friends online. She didn't expect Sam Wilson to have such an enthusiastic online life too. Seeing the teasing look on his wife Trinity's face, Sam Wilson didn't explain for the moment how he'd made an online friend. At the same time, Trinity Thompson also learned from Sam Wilson that this internet friend had once been a monk, and a high-ranking one at that, with the title of master, and even a published autobiography. What's more, even she, Trinity, hasn't published an autobiography. After a moment of digestion, the slightly stunned Trinity finally managed to squeak out, "So, which temple is he working at now?" If she had the chance, she'd follow Sam Wilson to his temple to burn incense and visit the master. Because her mindset was so delicate, Trinity Thompson's expression and tone carried a strange hint of respect. But Sam Wilson was so annoying, deliberately ignoring her complicated inner thoughts and continuing to state the facts plainly. He's becoming secular now. Trinity Thompson, oh. She nodded, pretending to be calm. Becoming secular is good, becoming secular is wonderful, becoming secular means he can eat meat again. As Trinity Thompson was deciding that Sam Wilson's master he met online was probably a free spirit, she still asked curiously, why did master decide on becoming secular? Although in her heart, Trinity basically had her own guess. There are so many fun things in this world. May be a rich young master becoming secular was just trying out a different life. Out of habit as a doctor, Sam Wilson didn't like to jump to conclusions, preferring to state the facts first. So, he lightly stated the facts again. Oh, right, he's getting married soon. Married. Master becoming secular and getting married. What explosive news! Trinity Thompson had been leisurely eating cookies while listening to the gossip, and almost spat out the cookie in her mouth, her eyes wide as she looked at Sam Wilson, eager for him to say more. Ahem. This was the effect Sam Wilson wanted. After all, he knew his wife Trinity liked these somewhat intriguing stories. He'd only told Trinity about Gary Thompson's becoming secular and getting married recently. As for how he and Gary Thompson met online, it was years ago when they added each other's contact information after discussing issues in a forum. But he basically stayed in the US, and Gary Thompson went to a temple in the mountains to study. So even though they sometimes had surprisingly similar viewpoints and perspectives in online discussions, they'd never even met. Later, Gary Thompson added him on WeChat. When Gary Thompson became a monk, he sent out a mass message with a photo of himself getting his head shaved. Trinity asked Sam Wilson, upon learning that his confidant was becoming a monk, "Were you sorry or admiring?" Sam Wilson chuckled. The truth was he didn't feel anything. Plus, they were just online friends, so when he saw Gary Thompson's shaved head photo, he just glanced at it with a casual attitude. Neither sorry nor admiring. Everyone who becomes a monk does so for different reasons to escape the world. As for Gary Thompson's reasons, because they'd interacted a bit, Sam Wilson internally thought Gary Thompson was just becoming secular out of boredom. Becoming secular out of boredom. Trinity Thompson had heard of picking your feet out of boredom, but she never expected there was also becoming secular out of boredom. The difference in people's mental states is really huge. A photo of getting his head shaved. Trinity Thompson suddenly had a flash of inspiration and asked Sam Wilson tentatively, "Sam, did Master Gary send you the photo hoping to be persuaded to stay? Also, was he sure Gary Thompson sent it to everyone? Or maybe he just sent it to Sam Wilson?" Trinity Thompson's mind was running wild, already imagining a cheesy drama of unrequited love, where Sam Wilson's indifference led an ambitious young man to become a monk, but in the end, he still sent the photo to the person he loved, hoping to be persuaded to stay. Trinity Thompson couldn't control her thoughts and was completely indulging in this tragic love story, finally glaring at Sam Wilson with a mixture of resentment and gratitude. "Did you reply to Master Gary?" Sam Wilson replied. Replied? Ah, if he replied, why did Master Gary still become a monk? What did he reply? 2 words, congratulations. Trinity Thompson. Poor, heartbroken Master Gary. Sam Wilson didn't know that his wife was already lost in a male/male CP of him and the master, full of love and hate. It wasn't until Trinity continued to ask if he and Gary Thompson had kept in touch afterward. After Gary Thompson became Reverend Luke, he would still look for him to discuss issues because he felt their IQs and EQs were equal and there were no obstacles to communication. "Sam, I think you are a person with wisdom, unlike my other friend David Jones, who has no affinity for Buddhism at all." This was Gary Thompson's assessment of him. Sam Wilson didn't feel any sense of pride in this praise. After entering medical school, his studies and work became busier day by day. Gary Thompson was probably just going through the motions as a monk, and after that, the two didn't communicate much. Why didn't they communicate? Trinity Thompson looked at Sam Wilson, paused, and withdrew her slightly regretful gaze, thankful that they hadn't communicated, otherwise she might have met a monk Shin instead of a Dr. Shin. Or some Master Shin. Sam Wilson glanced at Trinity Thompson. The reason they didn't communicate was simply because men's conversations were always about things. Without common ground, the connection naturally broke. Then what did you talk about before? Trinity Thompson was curious again. What common language do doctors and monks have? Sam Wilson explained casually, "Our research subjects are all people." Trinity Thompson, so, her research subject is also people. And then, just recently, Gary Thompson sent him another photo of himself in a suit, telling him that he was getting married. "Did you reply?" Replied. Trinity Thompson pursed her lips, pretty much knowing what Sam Wilson replied. Definitely those 2 words again, congratulations. It was clearly a joyful thing, so why did she feel a faint sense of sadness? And a hidden excitement in her heart? After all, the CP of a doctor and a deeply affectionate master was really exciting. "So, are you going to the wedding?" Trinity suddenly asked Dr. Shin, raising her eyebrows. Sam Wilson, "I don't think there's any need to attend in person." "There is a need. There is a need." Trinity Thompson grabbed Sam Wilson's arm. "I think it's very necessary." Sam Wilson was puzzled. Trinity Thompson, she wanted to see that affectionate master, and also wanted to see the poor, unsuspecting bride chosen by the master. Sam Wilson really didn't know Trinity Thompson had such a rich imagination, only thinking Trinity wanted to join in the fun, but he and Gary Thompson really weren't friends who needed to attend the wedding in person. But looking at Trinity Thompson's expression, he nodded, "I'll contact him." Trinity Thompson felt she was being unkind, but all the unkindness stemmed from her bored assumptions. In fact, she just wanted to attend the master's wedding. Learning the master's monastic name, she discovered that Master Gary actually had a social media account, but his last social media account post was from last Christmas. "There's no place like home." Never mind. It doesn't seem to have anything to do with Sam Wilson. However, being able to attend the wedding of such a retired master with such a rich persona, Trinity Thompson still felt honored and looked forward to it. So much so that when she had dinner with her brother Kevin Adams, Trinity shared the matter as a conversation starter. "Oh, by the way, Sam Wilson and I are going to a wedding banquet in Riverbrook in a few days, he. Oh, I also have a business partner's son getting married in a few days, but I don't have time to attend, so my assistant will go for me." Ha, someone with the title of general manager is just busy. Trinity pouted. Weddings of rich kids are really nothing to attend, but the wedding Sam Wilson and I are attending is different. Kevin Adams was too lazy to argue with Trinity Thompson's sarcasm and continued to drink his soup. Suddenly thinking of something, he looked up at Trinity Thompson's familiar, smug, and eager to speak expression and asked, Are you going to that powerful person's wedding? Not really a powerful person, but more eye-catching than a powerful person, someone that even powerful people have to pay respect to. Not really a big shot, it's a master. Kevin Adams, boring. After a pause, Kevin Adams reacted and asked, is it that kind of master who used to be a monk? Trinity Thompson blinked, feeling a subtle sense of please don't. Kevin Adams continued, the son of the business partner who invited me to the wedding was a monk for a few years before. Trinity Thompson. Kevin Adams, he becoming secular last year. Trinity Thompson. Kevin Adams, I think we should be attending the same wedding, the one you just called a remarkable master. Trinity Thomp. Son, on December 25th, Trinity, Sam Wilson, Kevin Adams, and Sherry went to Gary Thompson's wedding venue together. Noisy. Very noisy. In fact, the richer and more stylish the wedding banquet, the quieter it is. Even if it's full of guests, everyone gathers in a very feeling environment, admiring the talented and beautiful couple on stage. Question: what is a feeling environment? In a nutshell, it's almost like elegance with joy, joy decorated with romance, and romance hiding, the smell of money burning. In short, entering the venue feels like money is burning. Refer to the standard, for example, the wedding of She and Ethan he and our Don't Be So Proud. Shinshi, question for the author, so my wedding with JoJo is the most luxurious and grand wedding you've written? Other authors have even held cosmic-level weddings in outer space. He. They're writing science fiction. There are also male leads who launch satellites to propose to the female lead. Speechless. Ethan he, can you take your wife who's about to fly to the sky away? Ethan he, Shinshi, come here, don't disturb the author from writing the script. We're taking little treasure to the aviation museum to play. Author, the male and female leads can actually show affection in front of the author. Believe it or not, I'll write another proud 3 and let you #hashtag at #%. Shinshi Ethan he. Relatively speaking, Emily Smith and Gary Thompson's wedding banquet was simpler and more low-key compared to the weddings of some main characters. Emily Smith, is it because we're supporting characters? No, definitely not. It's because your man has a different status, okay? This is the first time writing a becoming secular master's wedding banquet, and Deju is also very embarrassed, afraid of writing something out of line. But Mr. and Mrs. Smith spoke, no matter what, they can't lose. Lose? Lose to whom? Naturally, to T. He wedding banquet held for Emily Smith's first marriage. Although it was a modern-style arranged marriage by both sets of parents, the wedding was still quite grand. But Emily Smith felt she had really matured and understood what marriage meant to her, so she didn't value the formality of a wedding that much. However, deep down, she wanted to have a wedding with Gary Thompson. This is why she and Gary Thompson both got their marriage certificate and held a wedding banquet. Actually, Emily Smith felt a little embarrassed to receive Donna and the others' red envelopes for the second time. Unlike Gary Thompson, who could solve even the most embarrassing things with a simple amen. One is a divorced woman, and the other is a becoming secular master. This is also the reason why this wedding attracted attention. As for why it was said that this wedding was noisy, it wasn't because of the heavy metal music surrounding the venue, nor the endless laughter and chatter of the guests, but because of the gossip in the hearts of the onlookers. Inside the large round tables, the guests couldn't suppress the gossip in their hearts, colliding with each other, the small glances cast on the bride and groom intertwined. Most of them were female guests from the bride's side. Remarrying into a wealthy family is rare, but often seen in TV dramas. But remarrying a monk who has attained enlightenment, this is something that simple folk like them would never dare to imagine. They never expected that their Emily Smith could be so awesome. Because the Thompsons were low-key, and they didn't have many relatives, the wedding banquet guests were basically friends and relatives from the bride's side. The invitations sent by the groom's side were basically to VIP guests like Kevin Adams, who had long-term business dealings. Because there were so many friends and relatives on the bride's side, guests like Donna and David Jones, who could be recognized by both sides, were arranged at the groom's table. Because of fate's arrangement, picking nose, actually, the author deliberately arranged it. Trinity Thompson, Sam Wilson, Kevin Adams, and Sherry were at one table. David Jones, Donna, Lily, and Joe's older brother Jiang Man were at the table right behind them, which was just the closest front and back tables. Trinity and Lily had become friends when they played at the tea house. Meeting again at such a wedding venue, Lily, wearing a flower girl dress, accidentally bumped into Trinity. Trinity looked down and made an O with her mouth. This little friend looked familiar. After thinking for a while, her brain short-circuited and she couldn't remember the little girl's name. Similarly, little Lily also made an O with her mouth, then blinked her eyes, raised her face, and looked at Trinity, her face full of excitement, mixed with shyness in her expectations. She wondered if the pretty sister could still recognize her. Lily. Trinity called out her name. Yeah, Lily nodded her head, but forgot what the sister's name was. Trinity. Sam Wilson walked over from behind, put his arm around his wife's shoulders, looked down at the familiar little friend, and asked with a gentle smile, "Did you run into a friend?" How could Trinity not hear the teasing in Sam Wilson's words? She said to Sam Wilson, "We met at the tea house before." Sam Wilson's memory has always been better than Trinity's, so he naturally remembered where he had seen this little girl not far away. Kevin Adams, bored to death, tugged at his tie, looked at Trinity Thompson and Sam Wilson talking to the same little girl not far away, and couldn't help but ask Sherry next to him, "Look at them, they're so bored they're chatting with a kid." Sherry was pregnant, looking very gentle and beautiful, and looked at Kevin Adams and asked, "Don't you think you're more bored?" Kevin Adams raised his chin, "Am I?" In fact, he was indeed bored enough to attend the so-called master's wedding. He thought he would see some different scenes, such as the groom with a shaved head, or a group of monks coming to chant sutras or something. In fact, today's wedding banquet was not much different from the weddings he had attended before. But the bride talked a lot. Other brides are reserved, elegant, and beautiful, but this Emily Smith couldn't wait to replace the MC, talking so much that she could almost hold the whole show. However, even though she talked a lot, what she said was quite touching, especially when expressing her experience of happiness in life. Kevin Adams felt that the master and his newlywed wife had the potential to run a multi-level marketing scheme. At someone else's wedding banquet, Kevin Adams was very restrained and showed gentlemanly demeanor, because he was about to become a father. How should I put it? In Trinity's words, saying good words is also a form of doing good deeds. Okay, his good words for today are, "I also hope that this magical couple, full of, can have children soon and live a reliable and concrete happy life." But David Jones at another table still couldn't hold back his venomous nature. "It feels like watching the holiday variety show." Donna. Is Emily Smith saying all the MC's words? Donna. Are they performing a vaudeville duo performance? Donna. Fortunately, Gary Thompson controlled himself. If he started chanting, "Donna, David Jones, please shut up, okay?" David Jones arrogantly turned his head away, but obediently closed his mouth. A venomous mouth really needs someone to control it before it can be restrained. Not far from the male guests, there were two special tables. Not only were the dishes different, but the style of the guests sitting around the round table was also a bit different. They all had no hair. They all had a peaceful and serene aura, and an ethereal temperament. They all wore the simplest and most elegant linen shirts. They were Gary Thompson's former colleagues, fellow monks who had worked together in the same temple. Trinity brought her professional camera, sometimes recording this extraordinary wedding, and sometimes taking close-ups of the atypical guests attending the wedding. For example, the group of fellow monks. Of course, there was also the person she loved. Sam Wilson was already used to her camera, but her brother Kevin Adams would never change his pretentious nature in this lifetime. As long as the camera was pointed at him, he would immediately give her a sharp look. Trinity didn't care and continued to film whatever she wanted, until the wedding banquet started handing out Dolly plush dolls. A very popular doll brand in recent years. Trinity didn't know that the Dolly plush doll designer was Lily's mother from the next table, that gentle and lovely little woman. However, perhaps because Kevin Adams and Sam Wilson's auras were suppressing them, creating a barrier around their table, even though Trinity waved her arms off, the dolls couldn't reach her. Sister Sherry was heavily pregnant, so it was even more impossible for her to stand up and wave. A disappointed Trinity hummed and sat down, not wanting to talk to Sam Wilson. It was all because of him and her brother that the average age of their table was increased, so the MC thought their table didn't need dolls. Sam Wilson had no idea that his age had offended his wife. It wasn't until the MC started the game session that Trinity turned her eyes back to Sam Wilson. Sam Wilson blinked desperately, but still consciously stood up. Kevin Adams showed his usual disdain for Sam Wilson's pampering behavior towards his wife. Crazy. Immediately, Trinity looked at her brother. Brother, do you want to go up too, to increase the chances of winning? Kevin Adams snorted twice. Sorry, he's not crazy. Wanting him to go on stage to play games, dream on. Just then, Sherry also looked at Kevin Adams and said clearly, that sheep is so cute. Kevin Adams? Kevin Adams didn't know how he got on stage, but his stage presence was very stable as Sam Wilson, as shameless, with the same calm and composed, thick-skinned look. However, Kevin Adams really wasn't good at games. In fact, he still had the heavy air of a general manager, and a heavy idol burden, and was quickly eliminated. In this regard, Trinity admired Sam Wilson very much. He had the face of an idol, but no idol burden at all. Of course, Sam Wilson, who had no idol burden, was so handsome. Even when playing childish games, he was calm and composed, and incredibly witty. Sam Wilson became the final winner on stage, winning the doll that Trinity wanted most. On stage, the MC asked Sam Wilson the most common question, may I ask, are you a guest from the bride's side or the groom's side? Sam Wilson, groom's side. MC, what are you to the groom? Sam Wilson, friend. In fact, just a friend he met online, commonly known as an internet friend. Friend from school? The MC seemed very interested in Sam Wilson and kept asking about his identity. Sam Wilson could only say something vague, not really, we should have met after work. Then, the MC showed an understanding expression, and Sam Wilson nodded and stepped down from the stage. No matter how smart Sam Wilson was, it was difficult for him to guess the MC's indescribable little look at the end. Trinity, who was off stage, was also overwhelmed by the joy of Sam Wilson's victory and didn't gossip about her husband being labeled with a different identity. Even she, sitting next to Sam Wilson, was also associated with various assumptions. The public's ability to imagine has always been rich, but most of it is implicit in front of people and gossip behind their backs, especially for people they are not familiar with. However, it's different if the why are like-minded people. After the wedding banquet ended, Sam Wilson and Trinity were stopped by a man with an unexpectedly elegant temperament. Mr. Shin, hello. Sam Wilson nodded. Trinity stood even straighter next to Sam Wilson, excitedly hooking her arm around Sam Wilson's arm, facing the man in the linen shirts. Without looking, she knew he was a convert. May I ask which temple you used to work at? The other party asked Sam Wilson directly. Sam Wilson. Trinity Thompson. What? What's going on? What did they misunderstand? Sorry, I have never worked in any temple. I'm a doctor. Oh, sorry, I was blind. The man quickly apologized, but didn't let Sam Wilson go, adding, I thought you had an extraordinary temperament on stage just now, and I thought you were a fellow traveler. Sam Wilson, dark face. Even the good-tempered Sam Wilson's face darkened, but Trinity Thompson burst into laughter. When she first met Sam Wilson, she also felt that Sam Wilson had a different, divine aura. What is a divine aura? It was difficult for her to describe specifically how a man with a divine aura would feel if he lived among humans. Until she attended the master's wedding, she understood. Amen. It turns out that all misunderstandings are not without reason. Sam Wilson was misunderstood, and Trinity was naturally misunderstood as well. Until the end of the wedding banquet, the female relatives on the bride's side looked at her with a similar look to how they looked at the bride Emily Smith, as if she was also some remarkable enchantress. Oh, Trinity, Trinity, Trinity.